So maybe we're actually live. Okay, are we live on LinkedIn, you guys?
Let me just check.
LinkedIn says starting soon.
We are live on YouTube. Yes, and we are live on LinkedIn as well.
Okay, fantastic. Looks like we're live. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, or this afternoon, depending on where you're located. We're just getting started here, and we've got a few more folks that are going to join. So we'll give a few more minutes to people to log on. Dave, how are you doing today?
Doing fine,
Okay.
Michelle.
You ready to roll?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
This should go very smooth since we've taken care of all the problems already.
Yeah, this might set a record for number of problems. We need to keep count of these, I think. Like my mother used to always say, builds character. So we should have a lot of character by the end of this year, and by the end of the session.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's right. That's right. Okay, looks like we've got some folks joining. Let's see, who do we have? Alan Pitt, thanks for joining us. Brad Boyle's on again. Fantastic. Bradley Hammond, Brianna, Cynthia, Dee Dee Kret. Oh, Diane Lawns, Diane Stanton. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh, Jerry Drake is on. Jerry Drake. Hi, Jerry Drake. It's been so long since we've talked. It's so great to see your name. I just wanted to let you all know we are definitely taking questions throughout the session. So if you've got a question that you'd like to ask of Dave, please put it, either use a Q&A or put it in the chat box. And we will we'll definitely address it as we go forward. And we'll have some time at the end of the session as well for Q&A. Oh, Kim Howard is on. Fantastic. And if you guys are on LinkedIn Live, whoever's on LinkedIn Live, or the folks that are here on the webinar, we'd love just to, where are you guys coming in from? It looks like we've got people kind of from all over the place, which is fantastic. Looks like a good group, good turnout today. Ruth Beck, fantastic. Stephanie Fisher, fantastic. Oh, Tim Clausen. Hey, Tim Clausen. A little known fact here, Tim Clausen and I used to work together at Experian way back when, and we lost touch, and we actually ran into each other at a CRF event. We were just like walking down the hall, and we hadn't seen each other in, I don't know, 15 years, something like that. And so it's great to have Tim involved in his team at NEC as well. Oh, somebody from Holland, Patrick Butts. Wow, Holland, fabulous. That's great. So this should be a good session today. We've got a lot of folks that signed up, so we'll just give it another minute or two to allow folks to come on in. And okay, see, it's Wednesday already. It's almost Christmas, partially through December. It's hard to believe. Okay, and let's see. Well, I'll give it just another minute or so. So while everybody's joining, we're just waiting for our last few folks to come on board. I'll just give you a little bit of background of Dave Schmidt. For those of you who know Dave, he's got a phenomenal background. Actually started as a D&B credit report investigator and wrote credit reports for them. He's held positions in credit and treasury, and he knows this business really inside and out. And he's been working with the Credit Today team with Rob Lawson for, 15 years, 20 years. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, 15 plus now.
15 plus, yeah.
But not 20 yet.
Not 20 yet. Okay. So Dave is a really good resource, and I would encourage you all, if you're on LinkedIn right now or while we're waiting, please reach out, connect to Dave and myself on LinkedIn. That way you make sure that you're in the loop when we have sessions going forward, or if you've got any questions. Also, you can reach out to us at any time if you need some information, you need to be connected to someone, or you've just got a question that you can't get answered anywhere else. Dave is a phenomenal resource for this type of thing. So we encourage you to connect with us directly. Okay, looks like we've got a pretty good group here. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Michelle Herman, and today's class is essentially AR benchmarking masterclass, strengthening performance in recession. We're going to go for about an hour today. Again, we'll have time at the end. But we also wanted to just remind you, for those of you who it might be your first event with us, Hayako is, by the way, it's actually a play on the Japanese name or word Hayako, which means basically get it done fast. And the Hayako platform is a incredible resource. Right now, I think we've got over 180 courses, anywhere from 20 minutes to 4 hours, that are free of charge, absolutely free of charge. And the instructors that we have, you'll see Bob Schultz there on the scene. We've got folks like Scott Blakely, you name it, Wanda Borges, John Donovan, all these folks that you've kind of known and loved over the years, plus some new interesting people that we've also brought on as well to kind of broaden their reach. But we've also launched a couple of mini certifications, and we actually launched a Black Friday sale last week, and we're actually extending that sale. And actually, we've got some mini certification programs, and we've got some premium courses that we're now offering at the bargain basement price of $9.99. And skill certification, we've actually got 3 skill certification classes, and they're $79 down from $249. But don't forget, there is a ton of phenomenal stuff on the site. It's complimentary, not only courses, but also downloads, templates, letters. Also, as we mentioned about Credit Today, Hayako actually purchased Credit Today about 2 years ago. And we're actually literally taking 24 years worth of Credit Today content, which if you've been on the Credit Today platform, you know the type of information that's there, surveys, benchmarking tools, incredible information from the industry's kind of leading folks, people who've been around the block and who know what they're talking about. And if you are not already getting a subscription to our free newsletter that comes out every Monday and Tuesday, please let us know, or go to credittoday.net, and you can just sign up for free. And we're happy to even give you a 6-month trial for free as well. It's phenomenal stuff. So we'd love to have you give it a try. Okay, so let's see. Where are we at right now? I think we're ready to go. Again, Dave Schmidt is your host today. And I'm sorry, your presenter today. I'm your host, forgot. And we're really excited to have you guys on board. And it looks like we are ready to roll. We've got just about everybody here. So with that, Dave, why don't you take it away?
Okay, thank you, Michelle. And what we want to do is do 2 things today. First, we're going to talk about benchmarking. I've got just 8 slides to give you an overview, and the idea is to get you thinking about benchmarking, help you get your head wrapped around it. There's no mysteries. It doesn't have to be difficult. And so we're going to, cover the basics. And then we're going to give you some examples from Credit Today's surveys that we've done. So we're going to give you spend the rest of the time look at those. This shouldn't take more than 45 minutes, maybe a little bit less even. And so we'll have plenty of time for questions. And the reason that we want to talk about benchmarking at this time is it's especially important when we're faced with an economy that could spiral downward at the next shock. And so you really, benchmarking is a tool that you don't want to leave on the shelf or in the drawer. It's something that you should be using, and there's a number of ways to use it. So let's start looking at it. And first of all, with the benefits. So the first 3 items there, all help you work smarter. So we want to increase efficiency, increase performance, improve quality. Those are all things that can be benefits of benchmarking. The next 2 items, facilitate goal setting and motivate employees. We can use benchmarking to help become more focused as a team, to align the credit function with the rest of the organization, and to really make the order to cash process, first class and world class. And so that's important as well. And then the last two items, give you both micro and macro insights. So it provides new opportunities for discovery, so there's some of your micro insights, and also provided an understanding of industry credit practices. So the high end, the macro view at that point. So these are the benefits. And, so besides the benefits, why benchmark? What specifically should we be looking at in terms of benchmarking? And the first thing is to very simply evaluate your performance against your peers. And how do you stack up or compare? And we'll talk about that further as we go along here. The second item is we want to understand the costs involved in the order to cash process. And we don't often consider this on a granular basis, but it's when you're starting to benchmark against your peers, one of the ways to equalize everything and can do apples to apples comparisons is to take a look at the costs involved and see whether your costs per employee are higher than theirs or vice versa. That, can help tell you a lot of things. And then third, we want to identify system weaknesses and strengths. And we're going to talk about these further on the next slide. So, the whole idea of benchmarking to better understand your systems is first, you can identify areas for process improvement within your organization. So on the top here, we have the customer journey, which is the order, invoices, adjustments to invoices, payments, that whole cycle and process. And then developing process staff and analytical capabilities. The whole idea is to make your team process oriented, make them more objective than subjective in their approach to AR management. So that's something else that can be done in terms of your process improvement. And then obviously improve process and data management. That's pretty straightforward, and ensure continued order to cash process improvement. And the two key words there are continuous and improvement. So benchmarking, sometimes it can be sort of a once and done thing, but it's usually something that you want to do on an ongoing basis and build it into your own processes as part of your management tools. And then you want to develop a case for making changes to your order to cash process. So a lot of times we want to change things. We have areas for improvement. Well, we need to make a case for it with upper management. And so streamlining O to C, that's all about efficiency. And so, hey, we're not doing as well as our peers in this regard. That can start to build a convincing argument. The next two items, speak to organization, establish process roles and responsibilities, and improve cross-functional cooperation. So those are also important in terms of making your case. And then also instilling process governance. So that's a better policy and procedure compliance. And these things are important, and especially then when we combine them with the last major header here, better set improvement and performance goals. So we want to develop a plan to improve our order to cash processes, that's strategy. And then we want to facilitate end-to-end process management using performance measures. So here's the vocabulary word for today. That's tactical acuity. So this is, all helping you better understand your systems and also be able to communicate your system deficiencies and strengths to management and to other participants in the order to cash process. And so let's just look at what can be benchmarked. And so what we have here is the order to cash process, pretty straightforward. This is the way we define it, customer order, customer credit, order fulfillment, invoicing, collections, and payment posting. And so as we move through that process, there's different things that we can benchmark. and put them in 4 broad categories, and just to help provide a framework for you to understand what you can do and how to approach benchmarking. The first is the invoice to payment cycle. So we have order capture. We have the cycle time from in days from the transmission of invoice to receipt of payment. We'll show you some metrics on that later on. We have the time required to correct invoice errors and make adjustments. We have metrics on that too. Remittance processing, how much time is it taking to do that? How accurate are you? Those are all important invoice to payment cycle time things. Actually, invoice accuracy we could add there. So it's a whole bunch of things that you could add to that. And then credit and collections management. So we have DSO and other metrics. We're going to talk about DSO later. We have accounts per staff member, and we'll give you some information on that as we go through this. The number of calls and dunning notices being made. So what are your inputs in terms of your credit and collections? A number of new accounts approved, number of orders processed. All these types of things, inputs, are important and can help you gauge, you know, are we overstaffed, understaffed? You know, do we need help with certain things? And then the number of payment promises and the percent of those promises that are realized. We can get into, especially when people are automated, we can get into some really interesting fine tuning, granular type information that provides valuable insights. And that can get into, you know, the percent of promises and the number of promises and the percent realized, you know, helps you get a view of collector efficiency and effectiveness. And so those things can be important. And then deductions, we won't dwell on this too much, but deductions is its own sub area, you know, and there's so much that can be done there in terms of number of deductions, the cycle times that it takes, the time to resolve them, the amount of time that they take to be resolved when they're escalated, and the percent that have to be escalated without, you know, being resolved first time around. All those sort of things, you know, are important there. And then taking a look at the total order to cash is, you know, what's the cost to perform this? The order to cash processes, the different parts of it per full-time employee. And, you know, you can do that on a basis of $1 billion revenue or even $1 million revenue. How many FTEs does that take? And that helps in your comparisons with other organizations and how you're doing compared to them. So some sources for benchmarking. Obviously, external organizations. I've got these listed in alphabetical order. So APQC is the American Productivity and Quality Centers. We're actually partners with them, have a casual relationship with them, and they share some data with us. They do a lot of AR order to cash process benchmarking. Credit Today, we run, we're going to talk about the different things that we do in a bit, but we do different surveys and have obviously benchmarking data. The CRF, the NACM, credit bureaus, all are sources for benchmarking information. Then you can also do internal benchmarking. And internal benchmarking, you know, it certainly is longitudinal. So it's month to month or year to year or before and after an event or an implementation or something like that. So that's also useful. You know, that tells you, you know, which direction am I going? It shows your trends. And then obviously peer benchmarking. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But over here, we do have an example of Credit Today benchmarking data. And this is from a snapshot survey, which we are quick surveys done over 2 or 3 days. And typically it just have 20 to 30 people contributing to them, but it gives us a flavor for things. And on here, you can see that, you know, 29% of this survey population were using doing external benchmarking. Another 43% we're doing it with industry peers, 14% with companies of similar size. And the others were sometimes a combination of things and some other things. But you know, these are the ways benchmarking is done. And obviously the big two are, you know, using external organizations and then working with peers. So here's some of the benchmarking metrics that we've published that have come from APQC. And these are interesting. And I mentioned, you know, previously invoice cycle times and billing cycle times. And that's from some benchmarking that they did in that regard. And just to give you a flavor of it, you know, what's very interesting on the first graph on the left, invoice automation metrics, is the percent of customers with access to self-service invoice information. So the 25th quartile is, yeah, my eyes are going, that's like 45%. And then at the 75th quartile, the top quarter, they're at 76.2%. So it's over 30% difference between the top and the bottom. So that's a huge difference. Over on the left side of the graph, the percent of invoices triggered automatically and the percent of invoice is processed automatically are obviously similar, but they're only about a 23% difference between the bottom quartile and the top quartile. And then invoices error-free, everybody does a pretty good job, even the bottom quartiles at 90%. But there are advantages to invoice accuracy, and the top quartile is at 96%. So, you know, they've eliminated 60% of the invoice errors that the bottom quartile is seeing. So that's interesting metrics for you to compare yourself against. And then on the right-hand side, we got the billing cycle time metrics. And what's interesting here is the billing adjustment cycle times and the billing to payment cycle times. Look at the bottom quartile on that billing adjustment cycle time, 7 days for the top organizations. I mean, 7 days. You know, our data is reversed there. The 7 days should be for the 75th percentile. The blue should be the top guys on this one. And 20 days for the bottom percentile. I guess the 25th is right. They're at the top on this one. It's just that we revert. Yeah, we've reversed things from the other. So my apologies for the little bit of confusion on that. And actually, I may be the only one confused here. But anyway, the gray is are the leaders. The blue are the bottom percentile. And you know, 13 days extra to make the adjustments. And in fact, the top organizations are getting their payments in 16 days. Whereas the bottom organizations are taking 20 days just to make the corrections to the invoices. And then you can see it on total billing to payment cycle times. You know, it's a 19-day difference in terms of when they're getting paid. So that's important criteria, important measures, and it's good to know where you stand on those. So what's involved in peer benchmarking? We've got two primary areas. One is you want to identify your peers in the one hand, and that can be people from the same industry. Credit industry groups are an obvious place to find some of those, but you can find them at other places. So it's good to compare to the industry because it has the same characteristics of your distribution channels and things like that. And another way to look at peers is companies of the same size. So sales revenue, number of customers, invoice volume, credit department, staff size, that can be used as a point of comparison. And the key is you need something, and I've mentioned cost before, that gives you a basis for making apple-to-apple comparisons. So if we're doing this with a staff of 5 and our peers are doing it with a staff of 8, you know, are we getting, per person, are we getting more or less done? Those type of things become interesting then. And then the other is to benchmark against the highest performing companies. So what are the best in breed doing? And so that's a little bit of what the APQC numbers provided. So what's that top quartile doing, and what do I need to go to get there? And those companies, you can look for ones in the same industry or niche, obviously, but you can also look for companies in different industries, but that face similar challenges. So high volume, the particular distribution environment. Are you a custom company, a custom product? You producing custom products, or you're producing a commodity? Those type of interactions are important to consider when you're choosing your benchmarking partners. Let's move on. So the success factors. The first four here are things you need to put in place before. So setting clear goals and relevant strategy, building a benchmarking infrastructure. You need an ongoing database or system of recording this. As I said before, seldom is benchmarking a one and done. It's really something that you consider, building up your the information that you have and your, that comes from benchmarking over time can be valuable in itself. So you want to have an infrastructure that you can use. You want to be selective in what you benchmark. And let me give you an example there. If you benchmarking on DSO is probably not a good idea, because the problem with DSO is, as most of you know, is DSO is affected by sales. So if my sales are rising and my AR is staying the same, my DSO is going to be going up. If on the other hand, so in that case, what happens is sales exceed receivables collected and written off, and so DSO is going to go up. If your collections exceed your sales, and sales, that happens when sales are declining, your DSO is going to go down. And it might not be because you're collecting better, it's just that sales are dropping faster than receivables. And so DSO isn't in the best measure. You're going to do better looking at something like average days delinquent or collection efficiency index, something that gives you, again, it's important to get apples to apples comparisons. You want to take out any of the ambiguity in the things that you look at. So cycle time, staffing, all those provide unambiguous comparisons. And then you want to ensure stakeholder buy-in, sales, management, CFO. That's important to have. These are all important to have beforehand. So I want to go back to the top here and talk about setting clear goals and relevant strategy. So when I'm looking to benchmark, when you're looking to benchmark, what do you want to benchmark? Why are you benchmarking? Is it for process improvement, to work smarter? Is it to improve your alignment between the order to cash process and the organization? Is it maybe cost structure? Maybe you're looking to automate, and so costs and justifying that is important. So from that, you're going to be able to then determine, do I look at internal data, or do I look at external data? Do I bring in peers? And so you might be a combination of a couple of those. So that's the next step in terms of setting the clear goals and the relevant strategy to this. And then, so let's take that case of looking to automate and the need to justify it. So you're probably going to want to compare it not just to people who've already automated, but you might want to compare things to people who are manual. So it's not just yourself, that's manual. And maybe you're looking to automate collections or implement a EIPP, electronic invoice presentment and payment platform, or automate remittance processing. So one of these things. So it's good to look both at who's automated already, and then those who haven't, and to see what the differentials are and to see where you stand on that continuum. And that's going to help you make your case for what you want to do, or else point out that maybe this isn't the best solution. Maybe we should be looking somewhere else. So that's all key to this in terms of making your benchmarking a success. And then after, we have the final two items. You need to communicate your findings, not only internally within your department, make sure your employees know as well, but certainly with management, and certainly also with the other participants in the order to cash process. And then you're going to review your goals and strategy after each round. As I said before and repeated, benchmarking isn't one and done. Should be a process of continuous learning and continuous improvement. And so you want to continually do this review, and so the next time around you can get even more relevant data. So we've had some recent credit today benchmarking surveys. This slide is here, and we're going to be able to provide you with this slide deck afterwards, so you'll be able to see these, but you can see what we've done. We've got a salary survey that's ongoing now, staff benchmarking, something that we're just finishing up, and I believe that we're going to make available to all of you, and that should be done by mid-January, if not sooner. So we'll show you some preliminary data out of that, but that's important. We look at payment channels and credit cards periodically. We look at automation periodically, and also we look at the outlook and what the challenges are for credit departments, what you're planning to do, that type of thing. And then we've done special surveys. One going right now on cybersecurity, data privacy. We've looked at fraud, professional developments, credit department skills, sales tax exemption, certificate management, everything going on there. And then we do these mini surveys, and we've got a number of things there, and I'm not going to go through the whole list. And those are usually just 2 or 3 or 4 question surveys. And but they provide some interesting information. So we're a great source for information, and it's on the Credit Today site, credittoday.net. If you go down the left-hand column with all the different departments, it's under Benchmark Central. So you'll find this stuff there. So let's give you some more examples. We've given you a few, but here's some examples from different surveys that we've done, and I'm just going to quickly go through these over the next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we'll get to your questions. So the first one is, as we mentioned, we periodically do payment surveys and look at different things. And this is from a couple different surveys, but the chart on the left is different payment types. And you'll notice that in the orange, the ACH is growing pretty fast, pretty significantly. Checks in the dark blue at the bottom there is sinking. We also see that credit cards are growing, but that's slowed down, and also wires are growing, but again, slowly. And then on the top there, that real thin band is alternative payment types, and that's still sort of emerging, but it's also growing. So all these electronic types are growing at the expense of checks, and that's information that you can use. It's important to make it easy for your customers to pay, and so here's some of the different ways. So how well do you handle some of these different things, and what are the trends coming? And it's important to look after that. On the right-hand side here, we have check the ways we asked people to indicate how they accept payment by credit card. What are the different ways they do it? And what's interesting here is notice the online, and notice the via fax. So fax usage obviously has dropped from 2014 to 2021, and in the meantime, online has really taken over that. The other areas over the phone and in person and via mail, slight increases. But, you know, fax is yesterday's technology. It's going away. And, you know, the key for companies now is, you know, do you provide e-commerce and a means of paying in that regard? So here's some more on payments. Discounts offered to customers. Slightly over half do not offer a discount, and of those that do, only 25%, you know, will accept it or accept a discount, you know, payment or approve a discount when a credit card's being used to pay the invoice. So, you know, that's interesting if you're dealing with that dilemma. Is there a minimum amount customers may charge to a credit card? And what's interesting on this chart, if you take the drop off in the 25,000 to 49,000 group from 2014 to 2021, and the drop in the under 10,000 group, you'll notice that that's about the same as the increase in the 10 to 25,000 group. So it's pretty stable in terms of the number of companies that'll accept a credit card for over $50,000. And everybody else seems to be migrating to a large extent into that $10,000 to $25,000 range. And over the years, you know, the numbers have come up. That under 10,000 has been going down consistently. And you know, but this is the trends that are out there. And the question you should ask yourself, where do we stand in relationship to it? A couple more. Staff training. What's interesting on staff training, and we did this as much as anything to learn from you guys, but it's also interesting for you in terms of comparing yourselves to each other. But with Hayako Academy, we wanted to know what training topics were needed the most. And what surprised us is when soft skills topped the list. And, you know, as things become more automated and the ability to work on a computer and use various desktop tools and, you know, and with obviously the COVID lockdowns and the move to remote work, soft skills became very important. So we see them leading the list. And then the next 5 or 6 items, you know, are definitely primarily credit related, and we have collections in there, you know, but everything from financial statement analysis up to risk mitigation, credit fundamentals, portfolio monitoring and analytics. All of those are still certainly important. And then we have a bunch of other things that showed up there. So the question is, you know, where do you stand on these? What skills are important for your organization? You know, are you much different from anybody else in that regard? And if there is a difference, that's what you want to look at here. And in terms of training, what training does your organization offer to its credit department employees? No surprises here. But, you know, if you notice, you know, except for well, none is there. That sort of stands by itself. And then next to none, the least used thing is in-house workshops and seminars. Everybody relies on external training to some extent, whether it's college tuition, continuing education, conferences, online courses, or external workshops and webinars. You know, there's external training is the primary source for it. And there can be some different reasons for that. And that might be apparent from this slide. So, you know, we asked, what does your credit department have a budget for training? And, you know, there was a surprising number of people that weren't sure, but the no's actually exceeded the yeses. So, you know, be that as it may, what we also noticed was there's a different between large organizations and smaller organizations. So the large organizations, half reported having a budget. With smaller organizations, only 25% reported having a budget. And then the average budgets, what is a credit department's annual training budget? The median was 5,000, but they range from 1,000 to 100,000. And how much per employee? And this is where that how much to employee is a number that you can use whether you're a small organization or a large, because that's a number that's important there. And we see a median of 1,000 and a range of 200 to 10,000. So those give you some ideas in terms of what you might budget if you're looking to do more training. And that's good stuff. And that's, as you can see, that ties into why the different types that organizations are doing. Not a lot is being spent to do things internally. In any case, whether you're large or small organization. So here's some of the stuff from our new staff benchmarking survey. So this was information collected in the end of 2021 and the fourth quarter there in the first half of 2022. And on the top there, just want to point out that that number on the gray bar, that's an outlier. We need to fix that. As I said, this is preliminary data. We had one large number that was probably an error that skewed things. So the gray should probably be, closer to 13 people, somewhere in that 10 to 13 person range. And the 0 at the top there on construction was because we didn't collect data on construction in that 2005 survey. So what's interesting here is, notice what happened during 2009. Everybody seemed to drop off in terms of their number of employees for these different industry types. And since then, it has steadily increased, though we see a little bit of a drop off recently with the manufacturers. So let's take a look at the next one where we look at it by job classification. You see that same trend again. It drops off in 2009 after the Great Recession, but then we see things increasing again. Though in this case, the only exception to that is deductions has dropped off a bit. But we're only talking 3/4 of a person there. But what's interesting, so we've come through this era. This is almost 20 years that we're looking at here. And we would think that during that time with automation and everything coming in, that credit departments are growing smaller, but the survey data doesn't seem to indicate that. So what we're seeing is incremental growth in credit departments, except when there's a recession. So the question coming is, what's going to happen if another recession hits? And typically what happens is there's cuts to staff, and unfortunately credit is often included in that because some genius in the front office says we need to cut staff in every department and everybody should bear the burden equally, despite the problem that this is going to affect your cash flow. So sometimes upper management takes the easy route and they don't want to face the hard decisions or the decisions that cause political problems. But anyway, needless to say, I get off my soapbox here. Credit departments tend to suffer during a recession, and we've got one coming. So another argument for doing some benchmarking and getting your house in order as much as possible before the economy possibly turns worse. And let's finish up here, just a few more of our mini surveys. One was on setting credit limits. And you can see here which of the following factors do you use in determining the amount of credit limit you would assign to an account. And leading the hunt there, these are pretty much as expected, is leading the list is, the expected order volume, followed by, a scorecard that looks at multiple factors. And then the reported high credit. Fewer still, only 35% are using a percentage of net worth. So it's interesting to see which factors people are using and to compare yourself to that to see where you stand in relation to your peers. And then who's involved in improving credit limits, and this is pretty much as expected, with the credit department head doing it, and then CFO next, and the various other people that might be involved, much less involved, and some of that will depend on your company's situation. And here we have did a mini survey on financial statement requirements. What's interesting is the 27% on the right, what's your credit line threshold for requiring a financial statement? So 27% require it no matter what. Basically, those are the under 5,000 as the threshold. But then not too much requirements from 5,000 up to $100,000. But then at $100,000, it jumps up to 55%. So a lot of people are making the decisions to, when my credit requirements rise above 100,000, that's when I should get a statement. And and frankly, I'm surprised it's that high. I would have expected more in the 50,000 range, but that's what it is, and that's this state of where things are. So that's interesting to learn. And what do you consider the most important items for your review purposes? And here, nothing surprising here. Net worth, cash flow, working capital, right there on the top. And so that's the way things are with that. And then one final one is we've got a mini survey on CECL preparation. CECL, if you're not familiar with it, and as you can see, many that the respondents weren't as well, stands for calculated expected credit loss. It's an FASB ruling, a regulation that's started to be has started to be implemented already. It's actually started in 2020. They because of COVID hitting, they delayed some of the implementations on that. So public companies by now should all have implemented CECL. Private organizations, though, need to implement CECL starting 12/31/22, if that's their fiscal year end, or on their fiscal year end, the first fiscal year end after that date. So as of December 31st, most private companies will need to implement CECL. And CECL, for anybody not familiar with it, simply requires a consistent methodology to calculate expected credit loss, but it needs to be for every receivable. So you see the comment down here, please tell us how your organization is preparing for CECL implementation, or how it already implemented CECL. And one person wrote that credit loss estimate on our entire receivables portfolio, even current receivables, which is what you need to do with CECL. You have to look at the current and what your loss estimates are for those. And historically, we only looked at delinquent and doubtful accounts in our analysis, and we think this is pretty typical. So is your organization preparing for CECL? You can answer this yourselves, but 57% we're not sure. And the credit department should be involved in this. But again, 57% not sure. And then of the remainder, the yays were twice as many as the nays. So that's an overview of what we provide with credit today. And I just want to also say that, we're always open to suggestions on benchmarking survey topics. So you can send an email to me, dave@credittoday.net or editor@credittoday.net, and we'll get it, and we'll certainly be willing to consider it. And again, look out for the launch of our staff benchmarking survey in early to mid-January. And this is something that we've done, as you can see from it, 4 times already. So it's going to have some very interesting information. It'll give you a good benchmarks on current staffing. So that's all I have for today. I'm open for questions. Michelle, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, Dave, thank you so much. Really good information. We actually have several questions that have come in. One from Jessica Link. She asked if we have any credit card merchant companies that you've seen that companies have worked well with. She said she's familiar with Stripe and JP Morgan's products. Any other merchant bank card companies that you'd suggest?
Yeah, there's so many of them, and there's organizations that can help you with that. That's not an area that I'm really an expert in terms of the whole merchant relationship. But yeah, JP Morgan Chase is always mentioned highly in our survey. If you go on the site, take a look at our credit card surveys, and we list the merchants that are used there most of the time. Stripe is up and coming. I'm besides writing for Credit Today, I'm a consultant. I use Stripe as well myself. They're very good, but there's a number there, a number of merchants that are effective, and those two are certainly ones to be considered.
Yeah, and we've got, I think so many people in this industry are working with Dean Middleton over at UTA. They do a really nice job and have phenomenal customer service. So that's just a shout out to them. Another question is regarding the surveys that have already been done. Can my company participate in these surveys that are closed, and can we compare our data from our company to others on prior surveys?
Well, what you could do there is, as you have a membership with Credit Today, you have access to those surveys, so you can, take a look, download the articles written, about those surveys, and go through and answer the questions yourself and see where you come out compared to everybody else. As we mentioned, we do some periodically, but if a survey's been done already, there's nothing to stop you from taking a look at the answers and the responses, and taking the survey yourself that way, and comparing yourself to them.
Great. Oh, we got a question regarding the CECL methodology. When does actually CECL become mandatory?
Yeah, it's mandatory for public companies right now, and I believe, well, there might be a few that haven't had their first year-end close this year yet. So there could be some, and it would be probably very few just implementing it in the next sometime this month. But for private companies, implementation, as I said, starts effective December 31st, 22 of this year, and it's on your year-end close. So if your year-end close is December 31st, 22, then you need to implement CECL. If your year-end close is going to be March 31st of 23, then that would be the date when you need to implement CECL.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, a lot of people ask that same question. When does this start? Another question is, do you have any information I can provide my CFO regarding accounts receivable being your most valuable asset? Yeah, that's the question. So kind of a benchmark on the value of different departments, I think, is that question?
Yeah. So we always talk about receivable being in one of a company's top 2 or 3 most important assets, merely on the size of the receivables. So from size alone, that's important. But in terms of, how important it is to have a credit department managing the receivables, and what the effects are if it wasn't managed is something else. So some of what you might look at for that is look for case studies of, and this really isn't directly benchmarking, but case studies between an organization that's doing credit collections manually versus one that's highly automated. And you can look at the improvement between from the manual companies to the highly automated companies. And I guess some of that goes back to some of the benchmarking I showed from APQC, with the bottom quartile and the top quartile. So what are the best in breed doing, and how much better are they at it than the bottom quartile? And from that, you can extrapolate some of the value that your credit department team can bring.
Okay, that actually is a great segue into the next question. Regarding upcoming or pending layoffs with kind of the upcoming recession. Do you have anything that you would recommend, whether it's a survey or some other resource to essentially get out in front of this, have a preventative measure regarding this?
Yeah, so preventative measures, for a recession and continued rising inflation and interest rates, requires portfolio analysis. And so and that's an area where we see that many companies could do a lot better in. And credit managers haven't fully adapted to things being automated. So normally we're used to doing things one-off. So we monitor our accounts, we evaluate the accounts one by one, but we don't look at the portfolio and rank the accounts throughout the portfolio, and then analyze those rankings by segmenting our portfolio. So what you need to do is you need to identify where are the risks in your portfolio, first of all. And you also need to identify those companies in your portfolio that are going to be most affected. So are there highly leveraged companies? And if they're a public company, you know that information. Those tend to be larger customers. And is that debt going to be rolling over? And if it's rolling over, they're going to have to be paying a higher interest rate, and all of a sudden their cost of money is going to go up substantially because of the rising rates. And so those companies, could be at risk. So you need to start doing those type of things. It's really more about portfolio management than benchmarking. But in terms of, you need to do better portfolio management, then get together, if that's something you want to look at, get together with your peers or look at some benchmarking studies on portfolio management and practices, and see how you compare. But that's the area where you need to get out in front of it. You need to, and it's something that involves not just internal in the credit department. You're going to need to get together with sales. Who can we sell to? When we got to start pulling back on credit limits for our risky accounts. Where are our good accounts? Where are the opportunities to increase sales to offset, the sales that we're going to have to forego because of the high risk? We did, Bob Schultz and I believe, did a podcast on that. Can't remember. I think it's going to be broadcast shortly, but we talked for over a half hour on this. So it's something to check out as well.
Yeah, that's great. It's another reminder to folks. We've got a whole series of podcasts that are out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast channel. And it was something else I wanted to throw in here based on another question that came in is, the challenge in presenting the value of the credit department and what they do and how they interact with people. And we actually, Credit Today did a couple surveys over the last, 10 to 15 years on the value, the return on investment of an industry trade group, a credit group. And it's been a while since we did one of those, but the numbers are astronomical. So I'll just throw this out there. Anybody who, if you're on this call or you're listening to this later, if you guys want to sign up for credittoday.net, I put the website in the chat box. And if you want to sign up for academy.hayako.com, I will send you that those 2 reports that you have them. They're phenomenal if you want to make sure that your boss doesn't come out and try to make you exit your credit group, your industry trade group for the next year. So there's some really good stuff in there. That's a great program. One last question on here. Let's see if we've got just a couple minutes, and let's see anything else out there. Another Cecil question. Same. I think we already answered that. And one last question is, does Credit Today have a job board?
And I'm not sure on that, Michelle. I think you might know better than I do.
I think the answer is that we're working on it. I think the answer is we're working on it. And we're actually, one thing that we're actually doing is we actually have signed an agreement with UCLA Extension in their financial services class, and they've got actually an entire roster of people looking for jobs, and we're going to be working with them posting jobs. So if you've got a job and you want someone who's trained in credit collections in the financial services, we'll be actually linking with them to connect to their audience or their students. And also, so you'll be to post a job, but also hire employees as well. So hopefully that's coming in the first quarter of next year. Okay, anything else? Dave, any final thoughts that you want to share with the group?
No, just to say that, benchmarking, as I said in the beginning, there's no mystery to it. It doesn't have to be complicated. And it doesn't have to be, it's something that can be, very specific. You don't have to benchmark everything. You don't have to, be overly comprehensive. If you're benchmarking with a peer, maybe you want to catch 5 or 6 key performance indicators and see where you all compare on those, so that in that sense, there's, you can get an overview, but otherwise benchmarking, you're going to want to benchmark for specific things. And so, and that's why, this quarter, maybe we're going to benchmark on our collection process, and next quarter, we're going to benchmark on, our invoice accuracy and invoice distribution and invoice to pay times. So it can be, you can do it that way, and then periodically come back to these things and see how whether you've improved. But there's lots of different ways to slice and dice benchmarking, and it can provide a tremendous framework for to help you with your decision making and strategy.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, I think that's pretty much covers everything that we've got today. And I just want to remind everyone as well, sign up for credittoday.net. We're happy to send you that the return on investment of industry trade groups report, which might be helpful. And again, we've got this fabulous sale on our nice skills certification programs, $9 for some premium courses and $79 for the skills certification. So if you have not yet explored academy.hayako.com, we encourage you to do so. Tons of great stuff on there, and it's at a fabulous price, which 99% of it is free of charge. So great stuff on Credit Today. And looks like we are right up at the top of the hour. And Dave, thank you again for all of your insight today and for putting this stuff together. I think it's really helpful. A lot of good feedback from the audience that was good. So folks, join us again. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. And Jerry Drake, we need to chat. And Tim Clausen, we need to chat too. And Doug Swafford. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for coming. Bye.
Thanks, Dave.